What was normal 20, 30 years ago, but is considered a luxury now? New furniture made out of real wood. Nothing angers me more than paying luxury prices for fiberboard framed garbage. It's legit why I started woodworking. Even my shitty projects that I'm unhappy with are infinitely better than the junk in store. I'm with you. My kids went through 4 beds in 8 years in the pressboard crap. I built a scabby one out of lumber for half the price, and they love it. Let them paint it and all, and they couldn't be happier. Does it look classically better than the store-bought ones? No. Do the kids like it more? Hell yeah. I got a kid's bookshelf my grandfather built for my mum and her sisters in the 1940s. Still solid as a rock, though it might be painted with lead. Feels like something out of Blade Runner. Passes small figurine. That's wood. You're rich. Natural old-growth forests. Owning the software you purchased. Not being expected to be reachable. 247. Why pay for a phone if you're not going to use it? I pay for the mobile computer the phone is attached to. The phone is just one of thousands of functions. I recently decided to keep my phone on silent at all times. Not vibrate, silent. I check it when I want and not when it goes off. It's made my daily life much better. Been doing this for years, and every single application has all notifications disabled. Phone is face down 90% of the time, and I'll check it when I check it. Yes, fuck this. I hate being bothered about work when I'm off work. I used to have a boss that expected me to answer when I wasn't at work, so he would bitch and moan about it. Then I became known as the one who never answers. This. I got a call in when I was at my old job from my boss, when I was out of town on a Saturday, a normal day off. Told her I was 4 hairs away, but I could try and make it, but she just huffed and told me it's fine, don't worry about it. She was livid on Monday when I showed up. Started looking for a new job at that point. Paying no more than 30% of your income in rent. Concert ticket prices. I remember as a kid, where I live, they would allow people to just visit an area of the airport from where they could see the runway and flights take off. They didn't have to pay anything for it. People would spend hours just looking at flights take off and land at it, to everyone saying this is still doable in many parts of the world. That's great. I haven't been to those parts of the world yet, and where I come from, one would still need to pay a certain amount to get in and watch from a glass cabin or so. Back in the day, there would just be a gate on the airport ground, a small barricade where you could just stand for hours and nobody would bother. Retirement plan built into your job, or just retiring in general, low. Farmers markets. You used to be able to go down and get fruit and vegetables cheaper than the grocery store. Now it seems like they charge threcks more than stores do. I can remember growing up in Wisconsin, and you'd see a random stand in front of a farm, and you'd get corn like $101, and it would be the most amazing corn you'd ever taste. Out in Amish country and power, you still can find quite a few, even some unattended stand that work on honesty, but still, there has definitely been a noticeable decline from when I was a kid. Unattended fruit and veg stands with an honesty jar are great. I saw one with a sign that said fresh every morning, and the cash box said all proceeds go to spoil the grandkids. If they even have food. 34 of the booths are just selling artisanal pine cones or some knick-knack. Homemade soap as far as the eye can see. We're a gourmet mushroom farm with a permanent booth at a large farmer's market in Aya. This is always a huge point we discuss all the time. They make it a huge deal to only allow local farmers, microgreens, bakers, meat, etc. The more food products, the better. Yeah, we do have lots of knick-knacky stuff too, but the board is pretty anal about making sure it's unique if they approve the vendor at all. Also to the point made above you. Ick, how many times I get people telling me I should raise my prices on our mushrooms. Price at the stand is usually cheaper than the grocery stores. I get it. We could, but then I'd hate myself for doing it, so nah, I'm happy making a nice margin already. You drive more customers away by price gouging, and my goal is to get more people trying new types of gourmet mushrooms, like lion's mane, shiitake, chestnut, etchu, and they won't if you price it too high. You just screw yourself as a grower that way. When I go to other markets and see other growers charging threeks, as much I'm just floored people are buying at all. Or even finding many food products at a farmer's market. So many allow handmade items, to the point it's almost half of the stalls there. If it's even handmade, I see so many stalls that are just reselling junk ordered from AliExpress. getting things repaired instead of buying new. I have a hedge trimmer from the 50s. It broke a few weeks ago, so I pulled out some screws and fixed its simple mechanical motor. Works fine again. Idiot, chill guys. It's an old corded electric no circuit board. If it doesn't have Bluetooth, how do you control it? I work making consumer appliances, and it's ridiculous how much shit we put Wi-Fi and Bluetooth in. During COVID, we were nearly at a dead stop because of a chip shortage. Look at the helium COVID test. Why TEF does a disposable single-use COVID test need a battery and Bluetooth? Incredibly wasteful. I had to pull out my other computer with Reddit logged in and find this comment after it had been buried, just so I could find a kindred spirit to rage about these things with. Whoever designed them deserves to be beaten with a rubber hose. Forcing a person trying to take the test to watch a 15-minute long, unskippable video that is required to run the test program that aborts the program if you get a call. Fuck. Whoever did that, I hope they die from COVID painfully and rot in hell. Dude, I'm diabetic. I have a thing that controls giving me insulin and uses Bluetooth. They're used like a phone body for it. It's constantly telling me I can connect to Wi-Fi. It doesn't use Wi-Fi to operate. And the other day told me I can't take a screenshot or some other nonsense. I get that they repurposed a cheap phone for non-phone use, and don't get me wrong, I love the system I'm on, but maybe just remove the software you don't need so I don't get dumb messages. I was recently trying to get a laptop repaired. Broken screen and charger port was messed up. Akka wanted $570 or so for annual repairs. I decided to pay it because I didn't want to buy another gaming laptop and have Tom worry about losing all my saved stuff. Still didn't fix the charging issue, but they were inside the laptop anyway because of the screen, and to take out the extra storage because that wasn't a manufacturer part. They reset the computer so they went all saved games, files, etc. anyway. Never did they mention a factory reset would even happen. My usual appliance repair lady told me that by the time I spent money on getting the washer fixed, I'd have enough money to put towards a new one. Take out the extra storage? They just stole your computer part? If it's even handmade, I see so many stores that are just reselling junk ordered from AliExpress. Privacy used to be implicit. It was just there. You didn't have to think about it. Now it's explicit. You have to seek it out and take steps to ensure it remains enforced. It's not that I have something to hide. I have nothing I want you to see. Anon. It's not that I expect privacy in public, but I shouldn't have to worry about being in someone's video photo on my way to do the laundry either. Ick, why people want to film themselves doing laundry. Or gym locker rooms. Put your camera away. I don't care that you got a good pump going, and this is when you look good. It's a fucking locker room, and you don't have the right. Oh, you don't have the right. My gym has a designated posing room with mirrors and selfie tripods and flattering lighting. I'm not kidding, but it's a bodybuilding mecha-type gym for serious lifters, and it really solved the issue of everyone blocking the dumbbell rack by posing in front of the mirror. That's pretty clever. I wonder how many social problems like this can be solved by redirecting natural behavior in a less annoying, intrusive way, rather than blocking it entirely. Another example is airports now have a dedicated area to pull over and set up your GP. Take out the extra storage? They just stole your computer part? Dude, psychology is fascinating. A guy who lived between my high school and the grocery store saw kids litter all the time. So he put out a trash can by the street intersection. Litter stopped. Want people to put away their car. Make sure you do regular sweeps to keep all cards put away, and people are more likely to be respectful and follow what's expected. Cats scratching up your furniture. Give them tons of scratching posts and redirect them. Not there. Over here. They'll only learn if everyone in the house stays on it too, though, and you have to keep giving them new things to scratch. Otherwise, they just start hiding it from you. How would I know this? Being left the fuck alone. Buying something and just like owning it. Playing a video game without an internet connection. Not having to provide your email address for every single fucking thing you do. Yeah, try getting a quick haircut. What's your phone number? Me. No, I just want my haircut, but we need it for our tracking. How about an email address? Me? No, I just want a haircut. And suddenly people are looking at you like you're a dick. I have even tried the whole no thanks, I just want a haircut, it doesn't matter. They are still going to continue asking. I now just make up random shit. best part is I go to the same place, and they know my face and give me the squinty eye. Pro tip: 867-5309 with any area code will work for just about any service, sign up, loyalty program, whatever, and it's probably already been set up. This pro tip is going to die in a generation. I've been using this tip for years, whenever I travel and buy groceries. Cashier, do you have a rewards card? Let's find out. What's the local area code here? Cashier? Poor Jenny gets signed up for so much random shit. Had this sorta happen at the grocery store. I don't like using the self-checkouts, and I honestly think it's healthy to practice just being bored waiting without looking at my phone. I was standing in line for the cashier, and an employee wandered over. Them! Hey, let's get you set up on a self-checkout line, me. No thanks, I'm good them. It's really no trouble, follow me. Me stays in line. Nah, I'm good, but thanks. Them, now looking visibly annoyed. Seriously, it's fast to me. Yep, I know, thanks. They then walked away but came back a few minutes later and tried to convince me again. Like, my dude, not everything needs to be efficient and tech-based. I spend my entire day in front of a computer. It's healthy and normal for me to want to have some human interaction today with the cashier. It's frustrating how many companies and employees now see your consent as a formality rather than something to actually respect. Given the option, I opt to the staffed checkout too. In my head, the more often those checkouts are utilized, the less likely they are to go fully automated. Single income families buying a home. Buying a home in general. Studio apartments I am working on will rent for 50% of my salary. How can I spend 50% of my income on rent but still save for a house? That's the neat part, you don't. A lot of double income families struggle to own a home. Given the option, I opt for the staff checkout too. In my head, the more often those checkouts are utilized, the less likely they are to go fully automated. Good quality fabric and clothing. I have clothes from the 90s and 80s from my mother that still hold up today. These days, I'm lucky if my shirt isn't saggy and misshapen within a year. When my grandpa died, I inherited a lot of his clothes. I wear so much of his Albion clothes from the late 90s, 20,000s. They hold up better than most things I could buy. I wear so much of his Albion clothes from the late 90s, 20,000s. My grandpa traveled 18,000 years into the future, and all he got me was this shirt. Right? I spent like $70 on new Vans less than a year ago, and they are already falling apart. I got jeans that seemed quality when I bowed them, but the belt loops broke and the seams are coming undone. I ordered a new shirt online recently that feels like it's the thinnest material they could find. I have jeans from the 90s that are completely fine, that I've worn 100x longer than any of my other jeans. The world is in the dark timeline for sure. Vans, grrr. I was a real skateboarder since the 80s, and Vans were the only brand of shoe that would hold up to my kind of abuse. In the last 10 years or so, they fall apart within a couple of years, if they even last that long, and the soles are wearing through. I used to always buy the chukkas, and they were made of a good, heavy, sweet material. Now what they sell as chukkas is made from a cheap, stiff canvas material. Of course, everyone at the store insists that they are exactly the same as the ones I remember. Wrong. Right, I'm rough on my shoes, but Vans used to be the ones that lasted the longest. I'm pretty upset at the quality of these shoes and the fact that they got pretty uncomfortable after a couple of months. I found a shirt from Old Navy in a thrift store recently and couldn't believe how well it was made. The tag indicated that it was from 2003. I miss my Old Navy shirts from the early 2000s. Those things never wore out and were very comfortable. Women's clothes are terrible in quality anymore. Everything seems so very thin. I'm not fat, but I'm not skinny either. I don't want people seeing my excess. I need thicker clothing and pockets. It's ridiculous. I don't even really buy fast fashion clothing, and my clothes really don't last, especially compared to my partner's moderately priced men's clothing. Really is better quality, and I don't mind spending extra to have clothes that hold up. When my wife or I are getting jeans out of the dryer, it's really easy to tell which are mine and which are hers just by sight. My jeans are made of much thicker material. Hers feel almost like regular fabric that has a denim print. There is one brand that makes men's and women's using the same good material that we both have a pair from. For that brand, the pockets are the easy giveaway. I have clothes that are truly vintage, 1950s, when I bought them in the early 90s and they're still good now. There's some survivorship bias there. The crappy clothes from the 1950s didn't make it to today, but mostly because technology changed. Google Loopwheeler, which is the old way of producing many fabrics for sportswear, for example. Very slow in the making, but exceptionally durable. There are some rare companies that still or again produce on old machines, Loopwheeler from Japan being one. Amazing quality and heaviest terry cloth I own. Also, there's a German company called Mersby Schwannen. Maybe meanwhile there's one in the States as well. Ich have been looking into that 10-15 years ago. Haha, my Loopwheeler stuff is from 2006ish and still holds up great. Yep, it's the same with linen. Linen has seen a decline in quality across the board because very few factories follow older methods that generate thicker, longer-lasting linen. Previously, only the longest inner fibers of the flax plant was used for fabric. With modern technology, they can use the broken thinner, shorter fibers for fabric. It's still 100% pure linen, but will always be thinner and not as durable. This has led to even expensive, higher quality brands unable to get this good quality linen fabric. There just isn't a lot of it in circulation, thus it's very, very expensive. Far more so than decades past, just because there was more supply. For example, there isn't a single flax mill in the use of today, even though we produced the majority of world's linen in the 1920-1950. Luckily, there are some movements to bringing flax milling back to the States and growing flax again in Oregon and California. But yeah, quality is actually getting hard to find as the older processes that make the quality die. Photographs on actual photographic paper. I know it's still possible, but oh so rare. Items not requiring a subscription each month. Also, every little appliance you purchase requiring some app or your email to verify your identity just to use the thing. You're a coffee maker. You don't need my email, you just need to make me a coffee once every 3 mornings. Surely you mean 3 times a morning. Shocking. Nope, I just checked the data for Corvus 576 and it's roughly once every 3 mornings. Edit, also. Corvus 576, would you mind accepting the latest update to your firmware? We're not seeing any data from your smart TV. Sell a man a product, charge him for a day. Sell a man a subscription, charge him for life. It used to be you could buy software and it was yours forever. Now, it's a subscription model with constant updates, some of which remove capabilities to force you to buy the new version. The fucked up thing is, you often pay full price for something you originally agreed to, and then they change the toes and/or functionality to something you cannot use or use in good conscience. But because they regularly tie these new changes or agreements to updates that can't be rolled back, you're stuck with the new product and agreement. If they tried this shit 20 years ago, companies would be obliterated, but they creeped this shit in very slowly, and now it's the norm. Intuit QuickBooks, accounting bookkeeping software, went from buy a CD and use the download until unsupported and glitchy. Rinse and repeat. Now it's gone to monthly cloud-based subscription. If you need this software, you are Intuit's bitch forever. They deserve to be first against the wall when the revolution comes. You'll take my music collection from my cold, dead hands before I'm forced to sign up to a subscription. Being able to go out every Friday after work and being able to afford it. Went out with my cousin. Bought food, 4 drinks for myself and my fiancé. Came up to $120. Going out got freaking expensive. Legroom on an airplane. Having a meal on a flight as well. Getting a handwritten letter. I actually got one from a Jehovah's Witness last week. Feels like they started this during COVID when going door to door wasn't recommended. A yearly family vacation out of the area lasting 10 days. A company-funded pension plan in the private sector. My wife's grandmother retired from one of our local health insurance companies over 30 years ago with a full pension. She's 91 and still receives her pension, although the insurance company was acquired by a larger organization a few years back. It's a modest pension, but it allows her to live a comfortable and independent life. Nowadays, companies only offer 400 or similar retirement plans. Outside of education government, very few private sector companies offer pension. I'm fortunate enough to be employed by one that still does. Being able to afford having only one person working in a relationship. Yeah, my dad as a college dropout restaurant manager made 6 figures, had 2 houses and 2 new cars in the 1980s. Mom just raised us kids. 35 years later, my wife and I have 2 bachelors and a master's between us, 3 jobs, and can just barely afford a house that's 50% the size of one of my parents' houses from the 80s. We make less combined than our dads did alone with no degrees. This is painful. I'm sorry. Bullshitting your homies on the playground. Had this revelation last week when talking to my nephew. His friend told some blatant lie, I guess. 9-year-old, and everyone pulled out their brand new iPhones to Google his lying ass. Remember when someone would say something and you just believed them? Even if you didn't, you were in for an hour-long argument on how it wasn't possible for Marilyn Manson to remove his ribs to suck his own dick. It is a luxury because it takes either credit or popularity to just be believed these days. Shit, I doubted half my professors just because they were old. Back in grade school, we had a friend who was a compulsive liar and would always have a story or some fact to input into every conversation, and after some time, we just stopped calling them out because it was so much. One day they said their uncle was a pro ATI rider and was on the cover of an ATV magazine. Another kid asked what magazine and what his uncle's name was, and then proceeded to pull out that exact magazine they had bought at the grocery store earlier that morning. Boom, no uncle on the cover. The liar tried to say it was a different issue. Blah, blah, blah. But it was such an awesome moment to witness. After Star Wars Ep 1 came out, there was this kid on the playground, said his dad built a working pod racer. He was the coolest motherfucker that you set. Ha! My friend said his uncle worked on the movie and had a working droid. I was old enough to understand CG and props, but he was my friend and I gave him an out. Not that I believed he had an uncle who worked on the movie anyways. And said, "Oh, you mean like the models animatronics they use?" No, Pete. He still tried to sell me that Star Wars used fully fledged robots, and his uncle had one. I'm not sure what the point of lying was. He was my friend, so it wasn't like he needed to impress me. Edit. I had a couple of people say how some of the robots are remote controlled, or his uncle was lying to him. While I get they do have remote controlled robots, his lie was more that the battle druids were fully functional, like exactly as they are shown in the movie. Which was why I was so confused that he doubled down when I asked if it was like a propanimatronic. I don't think he was believing his uncle, as he would have been 10, and he made up strange lies every now and then. Family vacations. I remember going on road trips regularly, and even flying once or twice as a kid. Now that I have kids, there's no way I can afford a week-long trip to the Badlands, Grand Canyon, Disney Universal Studios, etc. Best I can do is a day trip to the Dells, maybe once a year. The Dells, or a fellow upper Midwesterner. I'm about to take a small road trip with my kids, and yeah, definitely too expensive to do anything much that isn't free or low cost. We only have 2 full days to have our fun because we can't afford to have a hotel the entire week, even though we are pretty much only spending money on food and gas for the activities planned. Luckily, my kids are too young to care a whole lot, but it's frustrating to my husband and I. We really wanted a vacation, and this is all we can do. Disneyland or anything of that nature is not going to happen anytime soon, if at all. Edit. Yes, camping is an option if you don't have a husband that cannot stand it lame up. But it's definitely a great option if you have the equipment. Surf on these 6 coastlines, talk to Misty 4 times, and then push the pickup truck using strength to encounter mute. Pork belly. Used to be a bad cut of meat that was disposed of or given to the poor for dirt cheap prices. Then rich people realized that the poor made it delicious, which then caused prices to skyrocket. Same with chicken thighs, brisket and ribs. All the cheap barbecue cuts are expensive now. It's everything. Even oxtail and short ribs are expensive now. I miss the days of dirt cheap brisket. Even ground beef is going up in price. And that is literally just whatever is left over from the other cuts that was thrown into a grinder. All meat prices are rising, but brisket in particular is going through the roof because smoking brisket has become the latest suburban dad fad. In 10 years, the only used twice resale market for smokers is going to be flooded. Edit. Looking at you, Lincoln Riley. Wings even more. So, 10-cent wings were a thing like 10 years ago. Calling a company and getting a person on the other end of the phone. Edit! Thanks for the awards, kind people. I really didn't expect this to blow up like this. Now literally having to fight the Iver, and God help you because they've now enabled the robot lady to just straight hang up on your ass. You've made too many invalid selections. This call will now be disconnected. Goodbye. What? What? Nothing makes my blood boil more when an Iver tries to make you think it's a real person, because it always makes the experience more terrible. I hate calling at support because the Iver does this fake typing noise, like a real human is looking shit up after I say a response. Like, just fuck right off with that bullshit. They had either the worst product managers or the most insane focus group ever. Yay. It would make me happier if you humanize this voice recording so it takes me tenks longer to talk to a person. Also, it's 2023. I know I can do shit online. I'm only calling because I need to talk to an actual person here. People keep telling us they want to speak directly to a person. We hear you, and we care about your happiness. That's why we're making our robot sound more human-like. Please note that you can also find the answer to many questions you never asked online, including finding our hours of operation, double-checking the spelling of our name, seeing the colors in our brand palette 3 minutes of bullshit later. If you still want to talk to a person, press 1. The key is to say gibberish if you have the chance to speak your issue. My go-to is my dog's poop stinks. That usually gets me to a human. Boredom. There's always something to take your attention nowadays. There's literal lifetimes of entertainment on a single streaming service. Phones. There's tons of free and cheap games that can just eat hours of your time. Social media, YouTube, etc., etc. 20-30 years ago, if there was nothing you wanted to watch on TV, you either sat through it or found something else to do. Games had to be bought in stores, so it was more of a process buying them. Once you had them, you committed to it or bought a new game. Sometimes there was just legitimately nothing to do. You had to get creative with your downtime. Make your own fun. The key is to say gibberish if you have the chance to speak your issue. My go-to is my dog's poop stinks. That usually gets me to a human. Being able to buy a decent standard home on one modest salary. Years ago, my ex and I broke up, but had to live together still in a really awkward situation because we literally couldn't afford to be single. It was a rough time. Same thing happened with my college girlfriend. This was just before graduation for both of us. Just no way for either of us to crash with anyone else for that long or afford to move out on our own. 3 of the worst, most awkward months of my life. Games that released mostly complete, stable. Games that didn't have microtransactions. Games that are not live service garbage that dies less than a year later. Games that you unlock content cosmetics through actually playing the game and not by excessively grindy progression systems to entice you to buy X boosts, i.e. time skips, or buy microtransactions. Avoiding people by simply not answering the landline phone. This would make the person calling assume you are just not home. We introverts no longer have this luxury with cell phones. Texting, online status when logged into a PC so co-workers can immune, etc. I simply do not answer if I can't and don't want to. The rude person is the one who expects you to drop everything just because they want to talk right now. Going to the doctor. I'm 28, but even when I was a kid, you could go to the doctor when you were sick or hurt. Now I won't go to the doctor unless I'm dead. Lots of people are saying owning a house, but owning anything is at this point with how much subscription services are pushed. A single family detached house. More like owning a house in general, or even land. Word used to be just installed with your Microsoft software. Now you have to pay each month here. Leaving your family behind to start your life at 18 or even younger. Now folks be living with their parents until they're 45, saving up for 100 screw fort closet that costs $2,000 a month in what barely passes as not a slum.